welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
And I'm Todd Pleasant.
Dave did not look at me that time.
I didn't. I was just thinking.
And you just couldn't
honestly,
let it go, though. You just couldn't.
I could not let it go.
Yeah.
He must look at me and laugh every episode or I get upset.
Yeah.
The past 20 minutes are far more interesting than the next hour. Sorry you didn't get to hear
Yeah,
it.
that part was just for us.
We will now start recording when we all hop on and not wait till we
It could be the after show.
Yeah.
And Patreons can get the after show.
Yeah, totally.
No, we're not doing that.
Which one of us is going to manage the Patreon account?
Oh, God, we're not doing that. We may do an OnlyFans, though.
Yes, that's right. Where people pay $9.95 a month not to see nude pictures of us.
Not to see any of us with our clothes off.
I gotta say, and we won't mention names, but there is a friend of the show, more or less, who does an OnlyFans that is just shocking. Not that we see it, but...
So, Dave, do you subscribe to this person's OnlyFans?
What you see on Instagram, and Barry knows, is plenty to know what is going on.
They do a lot of advertising on Instagram trying to get you to go over there and pay, and what they show you blurred out is... Yeah, look, when we met this person at a convention all those years ago, would never have guessed that this is what they'd be doing now. But hey, more power to them,
And
I guess.
what was there just something... Was it something Todd would like? I mean, there's been things like...
Well, there's
aliens,
themes. Every month is a theme, or every week is a theme. Yeah,
cosplay slash.
No, it was Spock. It was Star Trek.
This is good advertising.
It was Spock.
It was Spock.
No,
yes,
no.
last week or the week before, it was pictures of Spock.
Someone dressed up like Spock.
Anyway, that leaves me conflicted.
Unthinkable Spock
things. I can't do
yes.
that. So
yeah. So anyway, but this week, again, not even as interesting as that. We're going to talk about a couple of new shows. We'll get to those in a little while. But let's go random. Barry, what do you got?
There's a series of currency coming out, American coins, that are going to be coming out starting January of next year, that are going to feature women. They're doing 20 different coins that are going to be women of a wide spectrum of fields, but not limited to suffrage, civil rights, abolition, I'm sorry, I can't even speak. Abolition, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the first one coming out is Sally Ride. I'm making a Sally Ride quarter. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, they're going to be quarters.
Oh, they're U.S. currency. Yeah, these aren't like collectible coins. These are actual...
I didn't. You said coin. I didn't know. So just like they did the state quarters and stuff like that.
They're going to do.
Cool.
They said they're going to do approximately 20 of them. I think the first one is Sally Ride, and they announced the second one is Maya Angelou, but they haven't announced who the rest of them are.
No doubt there will be controversy that this person was left out or that person was left out or this person was put in and that person was put in. Just like every...
The statement from the U.S. Mint was that they will be from a ethnically, racially, and geographically diverse backgrounds, the women they're going to pick. So, the reason I brought it up on our show is just because I thought it was cool that the first one was Sally Ride. We were just talking about her from For All Mankind. So,
I'll get a Sally Ride quarter and put it next to my Ohio quarter.
Why not?
I think I have a book with all the state quarters someplace. Then they did all kinds of animals and stuff.
There was many series of coins. Yeah, my son Brandon was young. He was collecting the state coins, but yeah, they kind of just went in a lot of directions after that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know where those are. Anyway, I have to dig them up. Todd, what do you got?
Okay, so this was something from last week I never got to, but New York City has canceled their robot dog program. They were leasing one of those Boston Dynamics dogs for various functions.
It used to pee oil on my car. I hate that.
I'm telling you, this is the freakiest frickin' thing. And so I read like 2 or 3 articles about this because I personally have a fear of things like this. And in this one article, he said, here's one of the things they learned. Many humans have a profound, deep-set negative response to robots, especially some specific kinds. Yes, some people accept machines while others reject them and will never fully accept the idea of robotic police. Yeah,
robots with faces and mouths that look like they could eat you are never a good thing.
Not even that. It's like, seriously, all the issues we have with policing in this country right now, and we're going to add an automated thing that can chase you down and knock you down and just
Isn't that like what's his face in Stop and Shop? Barry's laughing at my text.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those nights, people.
It's subtle but funny, right?
It is funny.
So, anyways, I am not at all bothered that
I'm all for robot dogs, robot police, and robot ShopRite employees who do absolutely nothing, just like the regular employees.
Oh my god!
Because what's that guy's name? You've seen him, Barry.
He follows me around the ShopRite.
Herman or no?
I think some shoplifting.
Eddie, somebody. He does nothing.
Yeah, well, I don't honestly know what his actual intended purpose is.
Yeah.
Does the one by your store have the big googly eyes on it? They put googly eyes on ours. Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
I always say hi to him.
Anyways, to get back to my random, they blame this on on science fiction, and that they say it's cast a negative light on robots. How about frickin' common sense? Okay, I mean it's like
7 Terminator movies will put the fear of robots in you.
Or just
a bit.
the first 2 good ones that I've watched 100 times each will put the fear of robots in you.
Yeah, the 3 good ones.
3 great ones.
Oh, the one great one and the 2 okay ones.
That's right. So, but anyways, Dave, what do you got?
How many Terminators are on your list?
2.
I have 3. No, kidding. So Ewan Mcgregor was on Jimmy Kimmel, I think, Monday night. He's actually was at the studio where they're filming Kenobi. So he definitely had you got to see, he's got his beard. I don't know if he wears a wig, but he's got longish hair that's very brown, which is interesting. So you got to see his look, and Jimmy Kimmel was like, "Oh, you're at the studio. Just grab your laptop and please just walk around everywhere for us." And obviously not. But the one thing that any little tidbit that I did get out of it, 2 things, was he had asked him, "What's it like to get into the costume? Does it bring back memories?" And he said, "The costume is fairly different than you think it would be." Which is interesting. So maybe he doesn't wear any Jedi-looking clothes. I mean, you always picture Obi-Wan in some kind of Jedi thing. So that was... I'm scratching...
But I wonder if maybe
really not the thing you want to do if you're hiding out. But anyways.
Exactly.
But maybe he is dressed more like old Ben was, which really wasn't very Jedi-like when you look at what the regular Jedis wore. Obi-Wan was really wearing what people on Tatooine wore. So.
Yeah,
he kind of had a long dress.
I was going to say, I don't think we saw anyone else with that cloak, right? Other than I guess the Jawas had a.
No, I think Uncle Owen had a cloak like that
with the hood and everything.
Yeah, I think when he was buying the droids from the Jawas, I'm pretty sure that's what he was wearing.
Okay.
I will look that up.
That's interesting. I think you were thinking of him wearing something, but maybe it's something completely different. So, and then he did say they are definitely using the volume. I know we talked about that.
Yeah.
I know because some Andor seems like it's live sets. Maybe there's a mixture of both, but he said they are definitely using the volume. So I mean, there's not much you can get out of that, but it was interesting to see. That was not very good, Randy.
All right, I just texted it to you, and he is wearing a robe like that, but it's white, not brown. But it's basically the same. It's almost the same exact outfit.
Yeah, no, colors. You're right. That is very.
Yeah, it is stylistically very similar.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see.
I got one other thing.
Okay.
And I'm interested to see this eventually when I can travel again. But right now, at the Uvar Haze Museum in
Virginia,
Lucasfilm just gave them an X-Wing. It's Poe Dameron's X-Wing from Rise of Skywalker that they are doing some restoration on. And next year, it's going on display, permanent display at the National Air and Space Museum. So while it's not the X-Wing I would like to see.
I was going to say, too bad they couldn't have got a real one.
Yeah, I mean, it is very much like it's the sequel era X-Wing, and it's the white and orange one, which is like, again, I would rather they had Red 5 there, but
it's like getting the 1980s, Trans Am with the Firebird on the hood. It's just
not the 70s.
So they said it's going to be on long-term exhibit outside the Albert Einstein Planetarium at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum.
Interesting. On the mall. Yeah, they were building a lot. Like I told you I was there last. No, not this past Christmas, the Christmas before, and they're doing massive renovations and building a whole new building. So
what's really cool, and I just texted you the picture, is they've got a picture of it being, in the back room being restored. And actually anybody who's ever been to that museum, there's an observation lounge where you can watch them restore stuff. It's like right next to a World War II plane, which is just kind of cool to see it in that context.
Yeah, that is cool. That would be cool just to walk around that museum is awesome. I mean, the Air and Space Museum is awesome for sure, but that sort of annex
that's my favorite. My favorite museum I've ever been to in my entire life is that annex museum.
I love that place.
That place is awesome. So, my guess is if they get to keep it forever and ever, it'll probably end up there at some point because I mean, that seems like the right spot for it. But pretty cool.
That is very cool. You know what else is cool? Fanboy Collectibles. Check them out. Speaking of Star Wars, they have some Star Wars stuff. Sideshow 1/6 scale General Grievous. Interesting. Did anyone make a General Grievous previously?
I think Sideshow actually did one once before, and from what I understand, this is like an update to it. The original one, I think, had some joint problems, and this is supposedly an update.
So is this like to go with the Anakin and Obi-Wan we just saw?
No.
This is more of a real movie look to it, but it looks awesome.
It does.
Yeah. Mezco 112 scale Bishop, which looks pretty cool if you're into those 112s. The new company XO6 First Contact Picard, already pre-ordered.
Yep.
I think it looks great.
Yep.
And that is one of my favorite Star Trek movies. But there's Hot Toys and Pops and Sideshow and Kodobukiyas and Mezco and statues
a well-endowed
and
Batman, Superman statue, as we discussed in the pre-show.
Yeah, there you go. If you need that Superman statue, check it out. So check them out, fanboycollectibles.com. Check them out online and in person in their store in Newtown, Connecticut. Tell them the Regular Joe sent you.
I was talking to Troy the other day, by the way, and he told me that he just got, he's now carrying the Four Horsemen stuff, which I think if you go to the website, they've got a lot of figures from that group now. And so he's expanding what he's carrying now, which is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So we watched 2 new shows this past week. One you've probably heard of, Bad Batch from Lucasfilm.
Disney Plus.
You want to talk about that? Okay, I'm curious. Does it live up to its name? Is it bad?
Wait a minute. So we're not talking about the 2017 Jason Momoa movie? Because I might have watched the wrong.
Was there a movie called Bad Batch?
Was there one?
I might have watched the wrong thing. So
maybe you were better off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys watched way more Clone Wars than me. I found this a little slow, and I kind of agree with what Brian said in his text to us. It's a little childish.
Well, when they added the kid, they kind of lost me. It was kind of like, yeah, okay, so we're going to try really hard to shoehorn this kid in there. Everything else they did was familiar and very like what they've done before, and I understand, I guess that's what they need for a different direction, but it was just like,
But the Bad Batch was in a bunch of episodes. I know they were in the last season.
They had an arc.
There was an arc with them. Yeah. There was an arc with
and
them
I
before.
enjoyed that. I liked that arc a lot, and I don't think this was quite that. It's funny. Here's another example of the first episode was 70 minutes. It easily could have been 30 minutes. I mean,
maybe 40.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it. I want to like it. There's not a lot to watch, but it's
I'm watching this and I'm thinking, okay, I really didn't like Ahsoka at the beginning, and I really didn't like what's his name? Yeah, what's
Ezra.
that? Yes,
Ezra.
And they both grew into characters that I found likable. I'm just wondering how long that would take here, and whether that we would have time. I mean, it's just like you've got to just shoehorn another precocious kid into the story.
I mean, you watched Clone Wars after it was sort of out, and you were able to binge it, and you watched it
right,
like in a different way than I watched it when I watched it all as it came out. So you were able to get past the Ahsoka not being a likable character stuff pretty quickly.
Fairly quickly, and I would not
me a year to get there.
Yeah.
Right, because I was watching it a week at a time, so it took us, those of us that were doing that like a year to get there. I feel like they're doing a very similar thing here. Do I feel like we needed the kid character? No. I'm hoping that they've got a plan like they did with those other two characters you mentioned, and that they'll get there. There's 16 episodes this season. I'm hoping that it doesn't take 16 episodes to get there.
Yeah.
I thought that there was enough in there to like. I think if you were a fan of the Clone Wars, they made sure you knew from the opening moment of this that this was a continuation of that. They even had the Clone Wars logo, and they burned out of that into the Bad Batch logo.
I like starting with the announcer,
Tom Kane doing the narrator. Yep.
It does feel a little less edgy though, and I'm someone who has not seen all the Clone Wars.
Did you watch only the first episode, or did you watch the second episode?
I watched both. I thought the second one was better only because there were weird long pauses. Sometimes it felt like you're playing a video game, and when you sort of put your controller down and the character just moves around. There was a lot of these sort of weird, awkward pauses. Did you guys catch that, or was
I didn't notice that so much? I mean, I will say I thought the first episode was maybe a little bit longer than it needed to be, but I thought the second episode already sort of, it was tighter, and I thought that there felt like there was more moments of actual, like, drama and chaos and more action in the second one.
I just wish the kid was a little older, a little edgier, and maybe she'll get there. But, I mean, I gotta figure, she's a clone. In theory, is she a clone of Jango Fett?
She's a modified clone. We don't know what her modifications are.
I'm hoping she turns into something cool, but she's just like...
Well, I don't know that she's a clone of Jango Fett because she's female. All the other clones have been male. All the Jango Fett clones were male.
But is there
and she's got a different voice, so I don't think she's a clone.
Well, she's a kid.
Oh, I think,
but she has an Australian accent,
and I think exactly, and I think that's why they did that. I think she is. I think they're just like toggling the DNA the same way they did with the other members of the Bad Batch.
I don't think so at all, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think so.
I got to totally.
It's how you get a female Wolverine clone. It's the same thing.
Is she going to be in this? Because that would make it more interesting.
It would make it more interesting.
In the millions of clones they've produced, they've never produced anything but the same clone.
No, but other than the Bad Batch.
Yeah, but they're still the same. They look the same. They have the same facial features and the same voice as all the other clones for the most part.
But they said there's 5 altered clones.
Exactly.
And she's one of them.
And she's one of them. And that was one of the things I got to say I did like that, because it was like, wait, did they just count Echo when they had said 5 when they were talking to Tarkin?
Because he's an after.
He's not. And that's what I'm like,
fact.
did they just make that mistake? And that wasn't a mistake. She was the 5th, and they allowed Tarkin to think of the 5 as the 5. The 5.
I think she's going to get to be something interesting, but she just seems like she's like an 8-year-old girl. I mean, no offense to 8-year-old girls, but I don't think a lot listen to the show. It just doesn't seem to fit in. But what was interesting, and they did show, like, she picked up a blaster, and she showed a couple of traits of, like, each of them. I wouldn't be surprised if she's sort of like got everybody's traits.
Oh yeah,
built
no,
into
this is the female Wolverine thing. This is totally
exactly.
She's a next generation. She knows how to do things she doesn't even know how to do. Like the fact that she was able to pick up a blaster with one hand and shoot it really well at her age.
And that's what I'm saying.
Skills.
And yeah, I think she's another experiment.
She might even have force skills for all we know. Like we'll find out at some point. But
so, what did you think about the? I guess it's 2 cameos and 1 other portrayal that were worked in there.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus?
Yeah.
Wrong series. So you're talking about Kanan and his master.
Right. No, right? I was actually thinking Saw and Saw Gerrera.
Oh, yeah, Saw Gerrera too. But
yeah.
So you had Kanan, who was killed Caleb in this, but
Yep.
he was the Padawan back when he was a Padawan,
Yep.
and then his master, who we'd never seen before, but we'd heard the name.
She was. I will say they did stay fairly close to the comic, and they, these characters obviously weren't in there, but they had he was at a distance. She had him stay away, and they got in a circle and took her down. So it's very similar to how it was portrayed in the comic adaptation, though the world looked a little different, and like I said, they were then added to the story. But
yeah, and I thought the Saw Gerrera thing, I mean, he looks more like Saw from the Clone Wars, and certainly a lot less like the Saw from Rogue One.
Right.
That's what I was going to say. He doesn't look anything like Saw from Rogue One.
No.
But
I liked this show. I'm a sucker for any of this kind of stuff. I'm going to watch it no matter what, and I'm going to most likely enjoy it unless they go completely off the rails like, that Resistance show. But I expected Todd to be higher than lukewarm, but not love it. I expected Dave not to like it, so I think we're all right exactly where I thought we would be.
I will watch it. I think it'll get somewhere.
I will watch this because I
nothing else to watch.
Basically. It's also, but I also I've ultimately liked everything they've done in this vein.
And it's Filoni, and I think Filoni knows how to do
exactly.
Star Wars.
I don't
know if
he didn't put this kid in there for no reason. There's going to be a reason she's there. Hopefully, it'll be satisfying.
The other thing is these guys have got to transition from just being just fighters, and there's got to be something. They've got to have a reason for being. They've got to be doing something, and I guess this contributes to that in some way.
But even outside of the four of them and the kid, I actually am really enjoying seeing the transition of the galaxy from
that's what I was going to say,
into the Empire, and seeing how almost overnight, Tarkin was ready for this. As soon as it happened, Tarkin was right there on Kamino, basically shutting the cloning program down. They were waiting for this. They all knew it was coming, and as soon as it went, that set off a series of events. They've got this whole you've got to register now, and they've got it's interesting to me to see how the building blocks of the Empire are being put in place.
That's super interesting because we never really, this is the birth of the Empire. That no one's shown that anything like that yet.
So what happened to all the clone troopers?
They turned into stormtroopers.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, maybe some of them did. I mean, they clearly said that they wanted recruits and not clones anymore because they want to be able to control.
Yeah,
we may see them. Maybe they're going to start.
I suspect we're going to find that there's a mass, if you want to call it genocide or die-off of
culling.
Of the
clone maybe troopers. That's the story.
Either that or they. I mean, when you see Rex, later on, I mean, they're aging at a much more rapid pace than normal humans would. So maybe they all just are also getting too old.
Could be that.
Getting
could
to that
be
age.
Order 67 could be put a gun to your head too. So
But that may be the story.
Yeah.
That may be what they're doing. So it's 20 years. Wait. Yes. This is literally the week after Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
I'm guessing, right?
Yep. Shortly after, within very short time period.
So the Clone Wars ended and we saw Darth Vader. I feel like this, at least these couple episodes, started even before that happened.
Well, we saw Order 66 happen, and we saw the Emperor give his speech.
But what I'm saying is, we saw at the end of Clone Wars, we saw Vader.
Yes.
This takes place a little before that and then works its way through it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this is before the end of the actual Clone Wars series, but just slightly. So
we'll see. We'll probably see Vader.
I hope so.
I would imagine.
I just love the cartoon interpretation of Palpatine's speech. It says, left me scarred and deformed. That whole thing is it's so over the top in The Revenge of the Sith, but seeing it animated was just icing
it's less over the top.
And I do like that they're semi heckling it.
Yeah,
it's
it will be interesting. So I guess Tarkin is probably the number 2 guy until Vader really, figures out how to walk and gets over the fact that he killed Padme.
I'm not even sure until Tarkin dies on the Death Star, but prior to that, I'm not sure Anakin's even. I think Tarkin may always be the number 2 guy. Tarkin is the only one that seems to be able to keep Vader in line.
Except though that Tarkin, this is like, so Tarkin is military, and Vader is not. Vader is the emissary of the Emperor.
But Tarkin can snap at Vader, and Vader doesn't just choke him out.
But what I'm saying is this is basically the equivalent of like an ambassador and a military leader. Okay? They've both got different power, but one doesn't definitely, eclipse the other unless it's a certain situation.
I feel like that's one of those. It happened this way in Star Wars, but it's not really what they meant it. How they meant it to happen? Because if Star Wars was a standalone, Tarkin would have been sort of the main guy, and Vader's his freaking pit bull on a chain kind of thing.
But yeah, I mean, even look at in Rogue One. I mean, Tarkin was clearly in control of the whole Death Star program, and Vader was off in a castle on Mustafar.
Yeah, and again, I think Vader is more like the dog you let out.
But I think in Empire, it's like, oh, we're ruling the galaxy together, blah blah blah. That was never really.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was more. Yes, I agree. That was. But
I mean,
Tarkin's
it's sort of retro. It's one of those.
Tarkin's
retroactively things.
It's
right after Star Wars came out, they realized that they had created one of the greatest villains in movie history, and of course they had to put him front and center.
And
had you remade Star Wars based on what happened in the universe, it would have been a very different dynamic between Vader, the Emperor, and
I don't think so. I think
Tarkin,
it works the way it does. And again, like I said, I think you have different types of power. And I think there's a power structure, and then there's power that's imbued. And I think that those two things clash. One's power is drawn more legitimately through the ranks, and the other is just conferred. And because of that, they're never going to be. Yeah, but they're never going to see eye to eye.
I also think that Vader, that the Emperor had been grooming Anakin / Vader for something that ultimately he couldn't become. Because of what happened to him.
He had no legs?
Well, absolutely no.
Robot arms and legs certainly don't.
He was going to be a tap dancer.
Right. But what I'm saying is that Biden could make one of you guys a cabinet secretary tomorrow, and you'd have to sit at the same you'd sit at the same table as the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, who has a lot more experience and probably feels that you're not up to the job and whatever. It's just two parallel things.
Screw him.
But taking it out of the real world for a minute, I think had Anakin not ended up the way he ended up, I think he and the Emperor might have had a different way of ruling the galaxy. I think that because Anakin was not everything he was meant to be, they might have needed more of the bureaucracy.
I disagree. I think the Emperor always says, you're at my right hand, but never really gives that status. I think that's all about, that's the game he plays. I think that, I think Vader was his, quote unquote apprentice for a lot longer than most people, but I think he was probably looking for the next guy. Well, we know he was looking for the next guy. He was going to throw over Vader for Luke.
That's the curse of the Sith.
They're always looking to take
partly
something
because
over.
Vader never achieved his full potential because he was broken. And I think he saw Luke as somebody who could achieve his full potential.
I think the Sith way, I can't believe we're having this conversation. I think it's you elevate someone to the point where
is this too nerdy for you, Todd?
No, you elevate someone to the point that they become a threat to you, then you get rid of them and replace them with someone else. Isn't that the pattern that we've seen?
No, I think I agree with that, but I think there's something to the fact that, I don't think that Vader ever achieved the potential that the Emperor saw in him early on, and that he was looking for somebody better, and he saw Luke as that person.
It took him 20 years. Why did he not find someone better in 20 years?
Yeah, I do disagree with that.
That's only because of the movie.
Vader was good until he saw Vader having aspirations, and he was going to replace him with somebody he thought was more malleable.
I don't think that's true. I think he had Vader, but when he realized there was Luke. He didn't want Luke because he thought Luke would be better than Vader. He thought Vader had a soft spot for Luke. That's what he sensed, and he did not want that to happen.
Yeah, and I disagree. I think he thought it's time.
You're wrong.
Time to
Barry.
I'm saying he thought it was time to replace Vader because Vader was not as controllable as he thought, and he could start over with the next model.
Well, and what I would put a slightly different twist on that. I think he saw Luke as an opportunity to test Vader's loyalty. And if Vader had killed Luke, then he would have known I've got the right guy by my side. And if Vader didn't kill Luke, and Luke killed Vader, then okay, I've got a
right there.
Newer, younger model that maybe I'll be more successful with this one.
This guy is probably more on the ball than they ever portrayed him as being. He probably had plans 7 ways from Sunday.
Oh yeah, he was 12 deep on contingency plans.
We're just writing a lot into this because they made up all this shit as they went along. But
this is the fun of Star Wars. It's such a diverse world. You can make up all this shit and have fun with it.
And I love the way we and the movies have to retrofit stuff in.
Oh my God, yes.
Before and after, just to sort of fit it into something that no one knew was going to be more than one movie.
One of the things that I've enjoyed about the Darth Vader comics was he's not the big baddie. He's like, he's big and bad, but a lot of people try to take him out because he's in the way between them and the Emperor. They want to elevate themselves by taking out Vader. And so it's,
Just bringing it back to the Bad Batch for 1 second, while I loved hearing the narrator and knowing that it's Tom Kane, it is kind of sad to know that the medical reports on him are not good. He had a stroke, and I guess he recorded all this stuff well before that. But they're saying now that he may never be able to do voiceover again, which is really sad because he was. Really sad. I mean, forget not just the Star Wars stuff he did. He did so much.
A lot of
stuff.
Yep.
When you'd hear him just riffing, you'd be like, "Oh my God, he's Scrubbing Bubbles guy. He's this guy." I mean, every voice you hear is him.
Yep.
So yeah, it's pretty sad. So hopefully he will continue to recover. But
okay, thanks for bringing us down.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I'm joking. I have to try to come out of a.
Yeah, I know.
Go into an up-tempo, the up-tempo number that is Jupiter's Legacy.
Okay.
I didn't think it was horrible. It was.
How much of it did you watch? Just one episode?
I watched the first episode.
Okay, Todd, how much did you watch?
I watched all 8.
Of course you did.
What's wrong with you?
And I watched the first 2.
Okay.
So we all have slightly different perspectives.
Dave, let's go in order. Dave, what did you think?
I mean, it was okay. I mean, it's funny, and it felt there was this definite Invincible vibe to it, and there was a Boys vibe to it, and there was Justice League. There was a lot. It felt like just let's take bits and pieces and mash it up. I didn't like the makeup. I thought, what's his name, the old whatever Utopian, which is a stupid name, looked horrible, but it was watchable. I mean, again, I got nothing else to watch, so it was.
But that's not the barometer we should be judging things against.
Well, if we're gonna give it a number, at some point I'll give it a number. I mean, it's I'll watch more of it, but it was okay.
Yeah. Barry.
Very similar to what you just said, Dave. I didn't feel like anything about it was unique or different. Like I feel, and maybe it's not its fault because I know the comics have existed for a while. It's not like they just made this up after they watched, The Boys and read a bunch of Invincible comics. So it's been out there a while, but it didn't feel like unique or different to me. So I felt like I was watching similar things to what I've seen before. And while I get that if you're like a longtime comic reader and you've read a million comics and maybe, you probably feel that way about everything is derivative of everything. But at this stage of the game, if they're going to put this much money into something and make a, series out of it, I'd like there to be something different about it. And having seen the 2 episodes I've seen, I mean, I guess the one thing that is unique about it that I thought was interesting was the flashing back to the 20s.
I thought that was interesting. I was curious where it's going.
Wondering how all of these people all of a sudden had powers, because it's not just the utopian guy, but it's his brother, and it's the woman he ends up marrying, and they're not even, so like to me, like all of that, I'm curious now to see how that happened. But the fighting in the future stuff and the fighting, him and his son and the daughter, and like, I don't know. What I will say is that I thought that the first episode ended on enough of a cliffhanger that I wanted to go see what happened next.
Right.
But I felt like they dragged me 50 minutes to get to that point where I was actually like, oh, I want to know what happens next.
Hmm.
I don't know. And the fact that the guy's name is Sheldon, again, I know that was written into the comic.
It was written.
But to me, that name is now so evocative in the nerd culture.
It's
I know you can't blame it. I know, but
these comics come
2012.
out? Oh, so it's not that old.
No. So,
tell us, Todd.
When the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie came out, they asked Alan Moore, who wrote
forgot that on my list.
Who wrote League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, whether what he thought of the film, and he said, "You should read the comic." Okay. And that is exactly how I feel having watched this entire thing. They took what was a very good story in 2012, but a lot of things have changed since then. And in a way that they took the boys and everything that was dated and everything that no longer worked and everything that was now trite, they kind of updated it. They told exactly the same story, except they slowed it down. Okay? It just... You don't get the thing that you're looking for, Barry, on the answer. You don't get that till the end of the 8th episode. And the way they do that is they add tons of pointless, unnecessary detail to those flashbacks until you don't care where they get their powers. And it's actually happening. It's really cool. But honestly, they could have taken that whole B story and made that the first 2 episodes, and then moved forward. This is so weak. I like I said, I really, really like the story. The characters are great. They were really interesting.
In the comic, you're saying?
The comic. Oh yeah, no, that's the story. This is just it's a really kind of shallow interpretation of that. I read a review the other day that said it was too violent for kids, but not intelligent enough for adults. And by the time you get like into 4th episode, you're like, you're going to do something here, right? And then you should keep watching. You keep watching. And they just replay the same themes over and over and over and over again, both in the present storyline and in the past storyline. And it's just, like I said, it's such a waste of really, really good source material, which, again, and they spent a lot of money on this. This was not, this couldn't have been cheap to make.
I'm sure they did, but I also felt like in that first episode when they're having that big battle, and some of the characters were like hovering in flight, it looked cheesy to me.
Yeah, some of that did look cheesy, and but again, this looked a little more comic bookish than some of the things like this that we've seen. I was okay with that.
Yeah, definitely more comic bookish than the boys and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I was okay with that element to it, but the
But it's so derivative of the Justice League, and not in a way that in any way felt like it was something different. So they've got the Hall of Justice, but they call it something else, and they've got
the characters are one-dimensional.
Very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
This is... There was in the 90s, there was a comic called Kingdom Come, in which they basically fast-forward in the DC universe, and they had the children of all the present superheroes, and most of them were, not that conscientious, and they kind of took being superheroes for granted, and, things went badly. I think Kansas got nuked. And the problem with that story is they focused on the older characters and didn't pay much attention to the younger characters. And they treated the older characters a little too precious. So they couldn't really make them as flawed as they needed to be and whatnot. So this is kind of almost like a do-over of that, where, in the actual story, everyone had things wrong with them, and there were flaws everywhere, and there were, but this just didn't come across that way.
I also just don't get the concept of we're defenders and we're guardians, but we never kill. Like, sometimes even the best superheroes have to, in order to save lives, take a life.
I kind of get that, but boy, by the time you get to episode 8, you've just been hammered over the head with it. And when you are, and this goes back to a discussion I have very late in the end of the series. When you are all powerful, it is very easy to become a tyrant. And it'd be very, very easy for them to say, well, the Second World War is a bad thing. Let's just kill Hitler. And then, continue onward from there and just end communism and do whatever. And I think that was the whole point, was they wanted to help humanity, but they didn't want to rule humanity.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
No, and I get that, but
and
in helping humanity, occasionally when somebody is that bad,
right,
and they're
but I'm saying, but the rules that worked in the 20th century, the rules that worked in the 20th century don't apply in this age in the same way. And I'll also say one of the weird things that they never quite addressed here was, so all of these people are well into their 100s. Obviously, because of their powers, they don't age as much. But no one started having kids until like 25 or so years ago?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
But how do you know the kids aren't aging slower, too? So maybe those kids are 40.
He talked about being like teenagers.
They did talk about their ages. And that's where, I think it could have been a whole lot more interesting if we had, if some of these kids were... if some of the kids' siblings were like in their 60s or whatever, and had some...
Yeah, and they were talking about how he was the godfather of the guy Barry, ironically, who's named after me. That guy died. But, yeah, you got the sense that they were in their 20s, the kids, not...
There were two generations here, and one are 100 plus... if they just said,
Yeah, that's kind of stupid.
It took us...
He also seemed a lot older than his wife did.
And that was because
his bad makeup,
the bad makeup, and I think that was Also, he looked like 50 years older than he looked in the flashback, which was 20 years younger. 20 years before. It was just odd. They made some really odd choices.
And I've never thought Josh Duhamel was all that great of an actor to begin with. So, he doesn't have the range, I don't think, to pull this off either.
I will tell you, the guy that played his brother did a better job and captured that character really, really well. And
while I was watching this, I was thinking to myself that the guy that played the captain on the last ship would have been a better casting for him.
I don't know. They're talking about not a lot of range.
Yeah, but I think he could have pulled off the looking older part better, because I think he is an older actor. But
he is.
Yeah, well, Josh Duhamel, I was surprised when they did the stuff in the 20s how young he looked. I'm like,
I actually was too,
because he's not that young. He's got to be 40, right? At least.
He's well into his 40s. He
looks very young there. He got Fergie. Are they still married?
I don't know.
Good for that dude.
And Leslie B.
He's 48.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, and she's the woman who plays his wife is 47. Who they really did nothing but give her gray hair.
Well, I'm sure she's like, I'm not looking. Don't give me wrinkles.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So are we ready to give this a number, or are we still talking about it?
So, anyways, if you go online, like I said, it's one of the things that they're talking about. They're saying they're trying to do this. Oh, the fans like it better than the critics. Yeah, the critics are slamming the shit out of this thing. It's in the low 30s in Rotten Tomatoes based on the critics thing. It's in the low 70s for by the fan rating. I don't know.
They're comparing it to Flash. Okay, let's give a number, and then we're going to go back and give Bad Batch a number.
Okay.
Todd, when you start?
For this?
Yeah.
5.5.
Oh, that's high. Well, you did watch the whole thing, so there you go. Okay.
I'm on the fence. The second episode ended with another one of those cliffhangers where I wanted to see what happened next, but I'm not sure I truly care. if there was other stuff on to watch, I might not keep going, but I'll give it a 5 because I might actually watch more of it.
5 is the number we've established as you'll watch more, right?
Yeah. That's why I'm giving it the 5.
Yeah. I'll give it a 6. I mean, I'll watch it again. I don't know if I really care.
I had hope throughout the whole thing. I got to say, it's tied up neatly. They answer all the questions. If I had watched, and I've really been trying this question on for the last few days, if I did not know the source material and was not looking forward to this, would I feel differently than this? And I probably would. But this was, again, this would be like doing a bad job with a Martian or something. I'm curious,
though, because I from what you just said, I didn't get the sense of whether you thought you'd like it more or less without knowing the source material.
Oh, I think I would like it. I think I could enjoy this much more.
Okay.
Okay. That's good to know.
They like I said, they really milk that backstory out in ways that just are not necessary, but they do. And I will tell you, it's tied up more or less neatly. They do set up for another season if that happens. It just, like I said,
I thought it was interesting that they didn't call it season 1; they called it volume 1.
Volume 1, yeah, because there's 4 volumes of this series, 4 6-issue volumes, and this is basically, they took like 6 issues of material and they made.
So those flashbacks to the Depression, that was all in the comic as well.
I hate to tell you how briefly that was in the comic.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was being dragged out more in the show. I just had a feeling.
Truly, is they gave that a lot more. They drew it a lot more, and we spent considerable more time with that. And I gotta say this was very Arrow-like in that we basically lived in these 2 stories side by side. You remember how early on with Arrow, how you
Arrow
had the 2 parallel stories?
Better.
It was that same thing. And
I did like how they visually separated the 2 from full screen versus widescreen. I thought that was interesting. An interesting visual choice.
Yeah. And again, I think they spent some money on this. Just the costuming.
They must have.
The 30 stuff they got really, the 20 stuff they got really well. But there's just a lot they didn't. A lot of places they could have gone with this that they didn't. I'd say there's just not the depth here that should be here. And I didn't walk away from reading the comic feeling like I didn't know who any of these characters were. And I'm not sure I got a good sense of who they were other than like archetypes from watching this. So,
okay.
Well, the whole time,
if you watched it, let us know what you think.
Yeah, in the second episode, the whole time he's in his daughter's apartment, I'm supposed to be caring about what they're talking about, and I'm just looking at the gold top Les Paul hanging on the wall behind her, trying to get a better look at that. That's not a good sign when you're just like looking at something in the background in a scene and don't really care what the dialogue is.
Yeah.
But,
all right, let's go back without a lot of explanation. Let's give numbers to the Bad Batch. I'll go first. 7.
7.5, maybe.
Yeah, 7's a solid number for what I've seen so far.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, well, I like it.
It's low for you.
I don't know that it's low yet. I mean, I'm not loving the Omega stuff either, but I have faith that it's going somewhere. Ask me at the end of the season what my number is.
Omega is the highest Greek letter. I mean, is that like? Is it just sounds cool, or is that like
she's the highest developed?
There's something.
That's what I'm wondering.
They don't do anything for.
Did they like throw
cool.
everything in that vial? Is that like?
There's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason that they named her Omega. We just don't know what it is yet.
Hopefully, she becomes more interesting. Okay, moving on. What are we doing? Either what's in the box, or we're doing what's in the box.
We're doing what's in the box.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Show you with the box. Who's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Regular Joe's What's in the Box.
I don't know why. We kind of called it something else, but we'll make believe they're all in boxes.
Mine was in a box.
Todd. So at some point somewhere, stuff was in a box.
Mine just came out of the box. So
isn't that a line from Jupiter's Legacy? Everything ends up in a box, right? Wasn't that from that?
I don't know.
The father said that before he jumped off the roof.
It ends up. You're right. You're absolutely right.
But they have a box company?
They were talking about the fact that their steel helped build a company that made boxes, and the guy wanted to start a box company because everything needed a box. and then that was the metaphor for him ending up in the coffin. So I was paying more attention than you guys, obviously.
Yeah, I do remember something about boxes, but honestly, I thought it was some other show.
Josh Duhamel repeats it in the second episode, so... Okay. Wow, I was paying more attention. I'm very impressed.
No, I heard that. Now. I just didn't know where it came from.
It's one of the elements of the story that I like the least. So
of Friends.
All right, Todd was about to talk about what's in his box.
What's in the box, Todd?
Okay, so I got a couple of packages like this recently. 2 packages like this.
That smells like it's from China.
No, but it does smell like it's from somewhere.
Oh.
Okay. We talked about this very long time ago. This was a gift somebody got for me that took a very long time to get. And there are 2 fragrances.
Oh.
It is the smell of space.
Ooh, to space.
And the smell of the moon. And these fragrances were made a couple years ago. It was like a Kickstarter kind of thing. And they are supposed to, the guy that made these had previously made a fragrance that smelled like the Russian space station. I swear to God. Okay.
That would be interesting.
And so they basically, they talked to astronauts and people in the space program and figured out what space smells like.
Velcro and sweat.
And I was going to say the Russian space station was vodka and piss, but I don't know.
This was a separate thing than the Russian one. But anyways, there were, and these were they collected this, and then the guy used ozone, hot metal, fried steak, okay, and a few other things like that. And
you're supposed to wear that?
I gotta say, I'll just be happy if it comes off my hand. I did.
Have you? Obviously, you've smelled it.
I've smelled both of them. They do smell different.
Would you use them?
I don't use anything like this to begin with. It's kind of cool.
That's what I'm saying. You don't seem like a cologne guy
I'm not
to
a cologne
begin
guy.
with.
It is very cool having them. I will put these on a shelf. This one, the space one, I gotta say, if you told me what that's the inside of a capsule smells like, I would totally buy it, because there's kind of a hint of like it almost smells like recycled air and a little bit of like rubber. And
I would think like not quite burning electronics, but sort of
that's exactly what I was going
for. Electronics.
Too. There's a hot,
that's an ozone.
That's
kind
what I'm
of.
saying. There's that ozone smell, but also a little. And again, this guy is a well-known scent maker, and this is his thing. And so again, like I said, it does smell like, I would say, like, I could picture that. Anyways. I will wrap these things up very carefully. I will bring them with me the next time we're together, and I will let you try and see what you think. In fact, we may do like a blind smell test, and you have to decide which is the smell of space and which is the smell of the moon. The smell of the moon
is you open your head thing and your whole brain's frying.
No, the smell of the moon is supposedly chemically reproduce the smell of moon dust. So,
does it smell like burning Sarah and what's his face?
Burning Russian inside the spacesuit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's so it was a gift, and I ordered quite a while ago, and I guess it was been some difficulty shipping this because they kept getting broken. And
some freaking postal truck stinks like the inside of the Freedom 7 capsule.
And that's exactly what the case is right now. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So that's
completely going off on a tangent briefly. Did either of you catch Saturday Night Live this week with Elon Musk as the host?
Did not.
No.
So there was one skit that actually made me laugh out loud. The rest of it didn't. But it was a takeoff on The Martian. It was like the Mars colony, and somebody had to go out and do something to save everybody's life. It was so they send Pete Davidson out there, who's like pretty much in this skit he's a moron, but he's able to do what they need him to do. And at the end of it, they're like, "Turn to us so we can see your face. We can't see your face." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he goes to take his helmet off, and it just blasts red on the inside of the visor of the helmet. So, it's pretty funny. Anyway,
I like that.
Who's next?
Oh, Barry, what's in the box?
Okay, I have a new Star Wars toy. Not a new old Star Wars toy. I have probably the only torture playset ever created for kids. It is the Jabba's Dungeon playset from 1983.
Jabba's Dungeon.
It comes with a crane and a branding iron that they use to brand the bottom of the Gonk droid's feet in the movie. What's interesting, though, and it came with 3 figures. They released this toy twice. It was a Sears exclusive. They took the base from the Droid Factory, retooled it a little bit, and added the branding iron. And it came with 3 figures. On the box, though, they originally printed the following. I wrote this down because I thought you'd get a kick out of this. The branding iron will torture any droids in Jabba's dungeon. I guess they thought that was too extreme, so they then put a sticker over that on the boxes and changed it to using the branding iron on any droid in Jabba's dungeon. Or use the branding iron on any droid in Jabba's dungeon. So they took out the torture part and just kept calling it a branding iron. They then released this again the year later.
Test focus group with kids, torture didn't
play.
Sell it.
Yeah. So they re-released it the next year. The base was a different color, and it came with 3 different figures, which is a much rarer version because they were 3 Power of the Force figures, which made them much more valuable now. But on that box, they changed it once again, and it said the following: "You can pretend all droids are in for a hot time with the branding iron accessory."
That's pretty weird.
So this was a toy I didn't have. I have all these figures already because they're basic common figures. They just picked random figures and threw them in the box. But
they did. That's interesting.
I mean, it wasn't random. It was the same 3 figures, but they're not like. There's no rhyme or reason to why. This was not the torture droid, but he was one of the droids that was the torture droid. The other 2 are skiff guards. So yes, they I guess belong in Jabba's palace, but nothing to do with torture. But I didn't have it, and I joined a new Facebook Star Wars toy group, which is basically, they call it Deal or No Deal. So somebody will post something for sale, and then people just throw numbers out at him, and then when he decides he sees a number he likes, he'll say deal. So I was the only one that threw a number out at this guy, and I guess my number was good enough, so I got it. So
that's an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, it's different. So I see a lot of. I'm watching it mostly because I'm seeing what people are willing to pay right now for toys, which is insane. But I think that's across the board on collectibles. Things are just kind of nutty right now.
Oh, for sure. That Hot Toys group we're in is just like the Hot Toy. I mean, it's so funny. You're on different websites of certainly the Star Trek website. Yeah, no one will pay $6 for anything, but the money thrown around on that Hot Toys group, $475, $600, $800, it's just crazy. And then the
next 5 minutes later, you just see the sold written next to it, like everything's selling. So
it's nuts. It is nuts.
So anyway, that's what I have this week. Dave, what's in the box?
Okay, this at some point it actually came in a bag, but I got this at an antique store in Rhinebeck, and it's just one of these things that I saw it. I'm like, that's a cool looking thing. This is a 1940s/50s micrometer. They call this. My company called Simpson. I just love the look at it. They had 6 of them on a shelf. It's made out of this Bakelite, the plastic, and it's an old-fashioned meter. I like the dial.
Yeah, it actually looks like a guitar tuning pedal, which
I mean, they call, and I looked it up. There's ads for it. They called it a micrometer that you can actually carry around. It's it weighs about a pound, and it's the size of a brick. Yeah. But I just loved how the old-fashioned meter worked, and it looks like it's just old but unused, and there were about 6 of them. That was $12. I'm like, nice. That's one of those things. If I saw it and it was $50, I'm like, that's interesting. But I saw it and it was $12, and I'm like, I need to have that. That looks cool. It's definitely got that sort of, not necessarily Art Deco, but that sort of vintagey look to it.
I think that the brand name on there has an Art Deco typeface, which makes it kind of look that way.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But definitely, it's got this little thing here, and it's got this cool meter reminding me of Forbidden Planet a little.
Yeah, that is cool.
And it's so crazy how thick it is. But I love the Bakelite stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see a ton of things made like that. Made with
Old
that.
phones.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's so dense and stuff. I don't even know if it works. It may work. I just was surprised at how cheap it was. So that's some weird random what's in the box.
Nice.
So we're coming up on our 8th year anniversary, I believe, right?
8th year anniversary. Yep.
Which is
Seems
crazy.
insane to me, but here we are.
Exactly. So that's soon. We have a special 7-hour show for you.
I think we've talked a little bit about what we're planning
Yeah.
to do, so if you're a listener, you might not be totally surprised, but
Yeah.
it is coming together. We have moved it forward. We're in the second phase now of collating.
Yeah, so we
Collating
are
the data.
picking the regular Joe's top 100 movies with us and the 2 irregular Joes, Daryl and Brian.
As we
Daryl's
speak,
doing the
Daryl
collating,
is-
so-
Daryl is hard at work compiling and collating our respective lists.
Yeah, we'll see if this is what it finally breaks our 20-plus year friendship with him, having him do that work.
Yep.
Oh, us, not us.
No,
him.
no, I mean him having to do that work might be
I
enough
don't think
to...
it's gonna. He knew how to do it. So
yeah, he willingly took it on. So
Yeah.
I'd be interested if you're inclined. Shoot us a tweet or an Instagram thing, or what you think like the top 5 will be. I mean, they're not hard. While it's not hard to guess, the order will be interesting. Because the
Yes.
order, someone has one thing, one place, the order
yeah,
completely.
my personal
gets
top
thrown.
5 hasn't changed in a long time, and the order hasn't changed either. But yeah, when you add the 5 of us together, it's going to make it interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly when we're doing that show, but we'll figure it out. We'll let you know.
Coming up soon, in the next few
Yeah,
weeks,
it'll
I
be-
would think.
Yeah.
Exactly. Any last thoughts?
Well, we could either talk about Invincible or talk about Tawny Katane passing away. Which one do you want to go with?
Tony Katane.
Tony Katane, it's a shame.
Yeah, that White Snake video was in a lot of people's formative years.
Yep.
Yeah, and the covers of the first couple Rat movies, Rat
albums, yeah.
Rat albums,
Bachelor
yeah.
Party.
Bachelor Party, for
Bachelor
sure.
Party, yeah.
That's a shame. Way too young.
Yep.
Very young.
Definitely too young.
Yeah. All right. Well, rest in peace, Tony. What's her real name? It can't be that.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
It
matter.
really doesn't.
She'll
It's
always be Tony.
It
to
is
us.
it is the image and who she was and who she presented that we're we all think of, and that's which that was her thing. That was
Yeah.
so.
Exactly. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.